Part 21. Landing 300 Years in Advance. Author, Chao-Ji Peng. Chapter 203. A huge sound came from the direction of the distant river town. This time the movement lasted a bit long. It wasn't until 2 or 3 minutes later, accompanied by a cry of pain, that there was movement from the direction of the important town of Xuanhuan, that it ended. How is it possible? Chen Ronghuo suddenly stood up from his seat. Dead. Through calculation, he surprisingly calculated that among the remaining 6 important town masters on Beiwu Island, 1 more person died in the battle just now. But this time, the person who died was not Tan Xiong from the powerful city of Xinwu as he thought, but Rosen in the important town of Aoki. Rosen was the lord of King Mu Town, one of the 3 major towns on Beiwu Island, and his strength was at the late 3rd level. How could he die so easily? Chen Ronghuo took a deep breath. Things are changing too fast today. Just a few hours after he asked Wen Jingluo to give up the important town of Xuanhuan, Rosen died in the important town of Xuanhuan. It was really beyond his control. He vaguely felt that he seemed to have indirectly promoted the development of certain things. But what it is, he doesn't know. Through ancient books, he was able to calculate Rosen's death. But there are too many causes and effects involved in God Rosen's death. Unless he consumes the energy accumulated in ancient books, even with his 3rd level soul power, it will be difficult to deduce what happened just now. The energy accumulated in the ancient books is his biggest trump card against those late 3rd level and even peak 3rd level practitioners on the island. With his character, it is obviously impossible to use it here. After exhaling in one breath, Chen Ronghuo sat back in his seat and waited again. Through calculation, he knew that Huang Lin, who was about to come back, had already turned around halfway and rushed towards the important town of Xuanhuan. Although Huang Lin is the inheritor of Mongadu Black Emperor Snake, his cultivation level is at the same level as him. At the same time, maybe because he is his subordinate, he uses ancient books to calculate Huang Lin's movements, which consumes even more soul power than it is estimated that there are still fewer ordinary 3rd level cultivators. Tread. Suddenly, Chen Ronghuo had a thought. He raised his head and saw Zhu Daipen and Li Haishui walking quickly through the open door of the hall. The guard outside the door looked at Chen Ronghuo. After Chen Ronghuo nodded, the guard immediately stepped back and allowed Zhu Daipen and Li Haishui to come in. Zhu Daipen, Sky Warrior, early stage of 3rd level. Martial Arts Qualification, 5. Innate ability, Immortality. The body is integrated with the blood of the immortal demon, and the vitality is greatly increased after being injured. It can recover quickly as the strength increases. It can finally obtain the ability to regenerate severed limbs and regenerate with blood. The remaining undead demonic blood is hidden deep in the body. With training and fighting, more undead demonic blood can be stimulated, thereby quickly improving strength. After looking at Zhu Daipen, Chen Ronghuo looked at Li Haishui again. I saw that Li Haishui's attributes were almost the same as Zhu Daipen's. In fact, his own warrior attributes after being integrated into the immortal demon blood were similar to those of the two. It just has the additional ability to transfer the injuries suffered by oneself to Zhu Daipen and Li Haishui. Lord. Arriving in front of Chen Ronghuo, Zhu Daipen and Li Haishui immediately knelt down together. This time, not only their strength has been greatly improved. The body has undergone radical changes. They had followed Chen Ronghuo for such a long time, and they no longer knew nothing like they did at the beginning. Therefore, after noticing the huge changes in their bodies, they knew that what Chen Ronghuo gave them this time was definitely an earth-shattering blessing. Although Chen Ronghuo mentioned it before. After they obtain this blessing, part of Chen Ronghuo's injuries will be transferred to them, but to them, what does such a thing mean? In contrast, Chen Ronghuo helped them time and time again and gave them blessings time and time again, but they could only watch helplessly as Chen Ronghuo went further and further away in their eyes. This was what made them most desperate. The two of them knelt in front of Chen Ronghuo, with thoughts pouring out of their minds but unable to say a word. "Everyone, get up." Chen Ronghuo stood up from his seat, helped the two of them up and said, "During this period, Beiwu Island has been undergoing many changes, and there may be a big battle soon. You have just made a breakthrough and are not yet able to use your power perfectly. Without further ado, let's go to the underground training ground and master your powers as soon as possible." "Yes, Lord, don't worry, we will definitely master our own power as soon as possible and become your right-hand man." The two men nodded solemnly. "Okay, then I'll wait for the day when you become my right-hand man." Chen Ronghuo suddenly smiled. Zhu Daipen and Li Haishui's breakthrough this time greatly increased the power in his hands. Two third-level cultivators, no matter where they are placed on Beiwu Island, are not weak. Immediately, he walked to the side of his lord's throne, picked up a few pieces of paper, handed them to Zhu Daipen and Li Haishui and said, "Also, this is the technique I prepared for you. From now on, you should switch to this practice." The exercises that Zhu Daipen and Li Haishui practiced before were also exercises he had deduced from ancient books, and their ranks were not low. But that technique was incomparable to the technique he gave the two of them this time. The demonic scripture of immortality. The two of them were slightly startled when their eyes fell on the name of the technique. Chen Ronghuo explained on the side, "This technique is just right for your changed physique. Practicing this technique can make your future practice more effective, and at the same time it can better tap your talents. In addition, there are several secret techniques suitable for you in this technique. You should master them as soon as possible." This technique of Immortal Demon Sutra was naturally calculated by Chen Ronghuo through ancient books. Just like the Earth Demon Ape technique he passed on to Ho San, relying only on his own soul power, he can only deduce the part of Immortal Demon Sutra corresponding to the third-level practitioners. To go further, he will have to wait for his strength to make a breakthrough in the future. Or use the energy accumulated in the ancient book. "Thank you, Lord." After sending Zhu Daipen and Li Haishui away, Chen Ronghuo waited in the hall again. Of course, he didn't just wait. While waiting, he divided his consciousness into two. A part of it fell into the soul sea, practicing the dark star meditation technique to enhance the soul power. A part of it moved its own blood and chi, and according to the immortal demonic scripture, it pressed a mysterious diagram in the meridians in the body and circulated slowly. The immortal demonic scripture was not only prepared by him for Zhu Daipen and Li Haishui, but also for himself. There are two kinds of martial arts. One is static practice, just like Chen Ronghuo is doing now. The other is dynamic practice, just like the Tiger Heart Fist he practiced at the beginning. The practice of the immortal demonic scripture can be both static and dynamic. It's just that Chen Ronghuo has to practice the dark star meditation technique at the same time, so he will sit and practice. Half an hour later, Chen Ronghuo opened his eyes and looked outside. As he opened his eyes, he immediately saw Huang Lin, who hurried back from outside. Landing 300 years in advance. Author, Chao Ji Dupang. Chapter 204. Lord. After Huang Lin walked into the hall, he immediately said solemnly, "I have found out that Si Kangxi in Taman Town and Jiaoning in Shui Town were killed by the three sons of Count Beiwu." The three sons of Count Beiwu. A look of surprise appeared on Chen Ronghuo's face. "You mean they?" "That's right," Huang Lin nodded, "although the three of them have been fighting with each other for more than a year, in fact, they are just acting. Use acting to numb others. And not only that, this time the one who took action was Li Tianjian from the original sword stronghold. If my estimate is correct, Li Tianjian may have joined the Changsun family long ago. Even Lu Bowen from the important town of Mentang may have something to do with them. Otherwise, the important town of Mentang is connected with the important town of Taman. This time, the Changsun family used thunderous means to destroy the two towns in a row. They should not let the important town of Mentang go. The Changsun family. Chen Ronghuo took a deep breath. For more than a year, Changsun Zhengzin's three sons have been fighting with each other and deceived him. Originally, he thought that Changsun Zhengzin's three sons were just like the emperor's heirs who fought for power and profit after the death of Emperor Dixing. But I didn't expect that this would be the result in the end. Chen Ronghuo was shocked. If it was really as Huang Lin speculated. The important town of Mentang and the important town of Yuanjian have all taken refuge with the Changsun family, so the Changsun family's thunderous attack is equivalent to taking the entire northern 5 towns into their own hands. Thinking like this, Chen Ronghuo asked again, what about the important town of Yuanhe? Can you find out what happened in the important town of Yuanhe just now? Upon hearing this, Huang Lin's expression became serious again and he said, just now, Luo Sen, who was in Yuanhe town and Qingmu town, was surrounded and killed by Long Fiheng from Longtan town, Ma Tianxiao from Dark Horse town, and Tan Xiong from Xinwu town. After killing Rosen, they took over the important town of Aoki together. Tan Xiong, Long Fiheng, and Ma Tianxiao surrounded and killed Rosen? Chen Ronghuo's expression suddenly became stern. The information here is really too great. Huang Lin continued, I approached them secretly, and judging from their appearance, the three of them may have formed an alliance a long time ago. This time when Jingluo gave up the important town of Yuanhe. After Tan Xiong occupied the important town of Yuanhe, he killed Qi Mu, the important town of Qingmu, who went to explore the news. It was precisely because of this that Rosen went out and was surrounded by 3 people. Chen Ronghuo touched the armrest of the Lord's throne with his hand. He really didn't expect that Beiwu Island would undergo such a big change in just one day. The dozen or so forces that were originally a mess were fighting each other for their own benefit on the island. As a result, in just one day, the dozen or so forces on the island were actually wiped out and merged. In the end, only the power group headed by the Changsun family and the alliance composed of the 3 major towns of Longtan, Black Horse, and Xinwu were left. The important town of Mentang. Suddenly, his mind moved, and his consciousness fell on the ancient book. He actually used some of the energy of the ancient book itself to calculate Lu Bowen, who was in the important town of Mentang. Lu Bowen's cultivation level is the same as his, at the early stage of the 3rd level. But Lu Bowen, as the lord of an important town and also a viscount, was too involved. If he wanted to deduce Lu Bowen's detailed information, he would have to use some of the energy of the ancient book itself. No. After a moment, Chen Ronghuo narrowed his eyes. Through calculation, he surprisingly calculated that Lu Bowen did not seek refuge with the eldest son's family. At the same time, he did not seek refuge in several important towns such as Longtan. The reason why his Tang family was not wiped out by the Changsun family this time was because people from the Changsun family and the Longtan town were now in contact with Lu Bowen. They all seemed to want to convince Lu Bowen to join him. Let's go, let's destroy the important town of Mentang. Suddenly, Chen Ronghuo stood up from his seat. Destroy the important town of Mentang. Huang Lin was shocked. Right. Chen Ronghuo nodded and said, with such a big change happening in Beiwu Island this time, he can be sure that once Lu Bowen understands the situation, he will definitely make a choice as soon as possible. And whether Lu Bowen finally chooses to join the Changsun family or join the important town of Longtan, it is not a good thing for him. Therefore, his best choice was to destroy the important town of Mentang, gain the power of faith in the important town of Mentang, and strengthen his own foundation. As for whether he will be exposed after destroying the important town of Mentang. Based on the current situation on Beiwu Island, Chen Ronghuo is almost certain that even if he does nothing, the important town of Longtan or the important town of Xinwu will attack him in a day or 2. And by that time, even if he wanted to avoid being exposed, he couldn't. In this case, it is better to gain some benefits before exposing one's own strength. Just do it. In order to prevent accidents and capture the important town of Mentang with thunderous momentum, Chen Ronghuo immediately joined Huang Lin and called up the formation Qinzan and rushed straight to the important town of Mentang. At this time, it was already night time. When Chen Ronghuo rushed to the important town of Mentang, a celebration banquet was held at the Lord's mansion of the former King Mu important town. Long Fiheng, the leader of Longtan Town, Ma Tianxiao, the leader of Dark Horse Town, and Tan Xiong, the leader of Xinwu Town, were sitting together, drinking and talking. "Brother Long, what do you think of the next situation on our Beiwu Island?" Tan Xiong raised his glass and asked. "Three parts of the world." Long Fiheng said calmly. "Three-part world," Tan Xiong asked in surprise. "How is the world divided into three parts?" "Brother Long, tell me. The guys from the Changsun family are really capable. They actually deceived us all. They can be counted as one part of the world. The three of us can also be counted as one part. I just don't know who the third person you are talking about, Brother Long." The descendants of Emoli, Long Fiheng shook his head and said, "The third person is the descendants of Emoli." The descendants of Emoli, Ma Tianxiao frowned and said, "Brother Long, you counted the descendants of Emoli in it, but I don't know if you can find out where the people of the descendants of Emoli are hiding." "Where are they hiding?" Long Fiheng raised his head and looked in the direction of Greenwater Bay Town in the west. Greenwater Bay Town is probably the hiding place of the descendants of Emoli. Or, at least it is an important base of theirs. Greenwater Bay Town, Tan Xiong's eyes flashed. "Brother Long, how did you know?" Long Fiheng took a sip of wine and said lightly, "Now on the entire Beiwu Island, there is only Greenwater Bay Town left as an ordinary town. Greenwater Bay Town is connected to our Longtan Town, Mentang Town, and Yuanhe Town. But do you know why we didn't touch them for so long?" "Why?" Tan Xiong asked puzzledly. Long Fiheng's eyes were cold and fierce. "Because just when we wanted to move them, something happened in Quangdao Town, the Wen Meridians in Yuanhe Town were injured, and our Longtan Town had third-level practitioners appearing every once in a while, and Mentang Town had a big snake entangled with it. If any of these things were missing, I would not think that Lushwiven Town was not simple. But with all three things combined, do they still think I can't guess it?" You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Landing 300 years in advance. Author, Chaoji Depang. Chapter 205. It seems like the Magic Gift Clan has disappeared for so many years, so maybe it really shouldn't be underestimated. Tan Xiong and Ma Tianxiao were both a little surprised. Although they had known before that there were often third-level cultivators in Longtan Town during this period, they also knew that there was a big third-level snake causing trouble in the mountains next to Mentang Town. But because their territory was not here and they had no personal experience, they didn't notice anything. Naturally, I would not have thought that a small Greenwater Bay town would have such great energy. Brother Long, I wonder what you are going to do. Tan Xiong and Ma Tianxiao both looked at Long Fiheng. Among the three, Long Fiheng is the main one. Send someone to contact the Changsun family and explore Lushwiven Town together, Long Fiheng said calmly. Although we are much closer to Lushwiven Town than the Changsun family is, the Changsun family and the Magic Li clan it's a feud, and once they learn that the demonic ritual family is in Greenwater Bay Town, they won't let it go. This is a great plan. Tan Xiong and Ma Tianxiao's eyes lit up. Once the Changsun family starts a war with the demonic relic family, they may be able to reap the benefits. That's right. Suddenly, Tan Xiong seemed to have thought of something, and suddenly said, "This time when Jingluo suddenly abandoned the important town of Yuanhe." Brother Long, do you know what happened? According to the original plan, they could not have captured the important town of Yuanhe so quickly. After all, if Wen Jingluo is stubborn and ineffective, and uses the statue of the Lord to consume the power of faith and temporarily improve his strength. With Wenjing Gluo's early 3rd level cultivation, he will be able to exert a strength comparable to that of a late 3rd level practitioner. In that case, even if Tan Xiong himself has a late 3rd level cultivation, it will not be easy to win the important town of Yuanhe. Wenjing Gluo. Long Fiheng frowned. He may have noticed something and made such a choice. He did not expect Wenjing Gluo to seek refuge in Lushwiven town. In his heart, Greenwater Bay town is the base camp of the demonic relic family, and its strength cannot be weak. In this case, how could Wenjing Gluo, with the support of Greenwater Bay town, easily give up an important town that has been operating for many years? At night, Mentang is an important town. The silver moon hangs in the sky, casting a pale white light. In the silence, Chen Ronghuo, Huang Lin, and Zhen Qinzan arrived here. Seen from a distance, Mentang town looks like a huge beast lying on the ground in the dark night. Lord, this is the big snake I conquered. On a hillside, Huang Lin stroked the head of a big snake with his hand and said to Chen Ronghuo. Chen Ronghuo looked at the big snake. I saw this big snake, more than 2 meters thick and 20 to 30 meters long. It was incredibly big. The body of this big snake was covered with pitch-black scales. Under the moonlit night, the diamond-shaped scales exuded a deep and cold luster. The giant snake has a high head and a pair of upside-down eyes, shining with a turbid orange color. Black scale crazy sand snake, early level 3. It was originally a 2nd level peak black-scaled snake, but after swallowing a sand spirit fruit, it advanced into a 3rd level black-scaled crazy sand snake. The 3rd level of peak potential. Ability, Sand Control Level 1, Elementary Level. Chen Ronghuo nodded to the black-scale crazy sand snake, then glanced at the distant Mentang town, and said, "Let's go." As agreed in advance, we will go directly to the Mentang town. Yes. Huang Lin agreed and disappeared. Boom. At the same time, the black-scaled crazy sand snake swayed its body and rushed towards the main town of Mentang. Its speed is extremely fast, and as it wanders, all the weeds it encounters are pushed to both sides. At the same time, billows of yellow sand were lifted up and accompanied by it, moving forward with it. If someone were to see this thing on Earth, they would definitely be scared to death. Chen Ronghuo and Zhen Qinzan were behind the black-scale crazy sand snake. Chen Ronghuo's eyes flashed, thinking about how much power of faith there was in the important town of Mentang. He has just broken through to the 3rd level. Even if his qualifications are as high as 5 points, it will take at least 2 or 3 years to advance to the middle of the 3rd level with normal training and no other resources. From the middle of the 3rd level to the late 3rd level, it will take 5 or 6 years. It will take more than 10 years to reach the peak in the later stage, and more than 20 years to reach the 4th level from the peak. Taken together, if he wants to practice from the 3rd level to the 4th level, it will probably take him 40 or 50 years. In this way, after 300 years, he will only be able to cultivate to the 5th level at most. What can a 5th level cultivator do in the environment of changes in the 2 worlds? Chen Ronghuo knew that he had to do everything possible to speed up his cultivation. And the best way to speed up is to plunder resources. 2 3rd order. Through calculation, Chen Ronghuo knew that there were 2 3rd level beings in the important town of Mentang at this time. One of them is Lu Bowen. He didn't know who the other one was. However, after he passed the test, he found that the soul energy required to calculate another person was the same as calculating an ordinary 3rd level cultivator, so he didn't care. In the important town of Mentang, Lu Bowen was sitting in the Lord's Hall, looking at the map of Beiwu Island in front of him under the flickering candlelight, with a hint of exhaustion in his eyes. The Changsun family, Long Fiheng, Ma Tianxiao, Tan Xiong, who should I choose? On either side of his seat were 3 huge candles. These candles are made from the resin of a rare tree on Beiwu Island. Crystal white, no choking smell when burned. Boom. Suddenly, just as he frowned, a sound like a giant hitting the wall of Mentang town suddenly came from outside the town. Looking for death. Lu Bowen's lord's mansion was not far from the gate of Mentang town. He spread his soul power and knew what was causing trouble in an instant. He had long wanted to kill the black-scaled crazy sand snake. It was just that the black-scaled crazy sand snake had always driven low-level demons from the mountains to attack the villages of the vassal Mentang town. It had never taken action personally. Lu Bowen didn't dare to go out casually, so he had no way to deal with the black-scaled crazy sand snake. But this time, the black-scaled crazy sand snake dared to come to his doorstep, and the killing intent that he had accumulated for many days rushed out in an instant. But after standing up from the Lord's throne, Lu Bowen's heart suddenly moved again. Most third-level demons have high intelligence. That big snake was able to drive low-level demons to wreak havoc on their Tang town, so its intelligence was obviously not too low. How could it easily take risks, come out of the mountains, and run to his door? Suddenly, just when he was hesitant, the 6 candles on both sides of his seat suddenly went out. Only the wicks in the middle of the 6 huge candles still had a little spark that was about to disappear. Not good. Lu Bowen's heart jumped. He felt a burst of amazing chills coming from behind him. His aura burst out. Countless dark yellow lights rushed out from his body, turning into a cocky light shield that enveloped him in the middle. Puff. Just when this light shield was formed, a snake-like hand wrapped in scales suddenly stretched out from behind him, broke through the cocky light shield with a bang, and grabbed his back. Landing 300 years in advance. Author, Chao Ji Dupang. Chapter 206. Lu Bowen turned around. Countless cocky lights gathered in front of him, forming a yellow heart-protecting mirror that blocked his chest. Boom. The large hand covered with scales, like a black snake spear, slammed into the heart-protecting mirror on Lu Bowen's chest with a bang. Crack. The heart-protecting mirror shattered. Each of the broken heart-protecting mirrors reflected a thin figure. This figure was Xuanhuan. Countless pieces of debris reflected countless Xuanhuans. As those fragments turned into dots of light and dissipated, Xuanhuan's figure also disappeared from Lu Bowen's body. Boom. The earth shook, and yellow light shot up into the sky. Countless gravel and soil rose instantly from the ground within a range of hundreds of meters. Lu Bowen's lord's mansion collapsed. But after showing off his power, Lu Bowen's face was gloomy. Because in this short period of time, Xuanhuan, who had just assassinated him, had disappeared. He put his hand to his chest, and saw that the clothes there had been torn, revealing the skin with a little green mark. If he hadn't reacted quickly just now, even if he burned the power of faith and exerted the strength comparable to that of a late-stage third-level cultivator, he would probably have been killed by Xuanhuan. Almost all lords would not consume all the power of faith. Most lords would save some power of faith, so that they could burn the power of faith at critical moments to enhance their strength and deal with crises. He was the same. Chirp. Suddenly, he opened his mouth and made a sharp sound. After this sharp sound, he immediately rushed straight to the gate of Mentang town. Xuanhuan's assassination just now still made him feel scared. If Xuanhuan didn't die, he couldn't leave Mentang town. Because only in Mentang town was his strength the strongest. In this case, instead of waiting passively, he might as well take the initiative to attack and cut off one of the enemy's combat power first. Boom. His body flashed, defying gravity, and soared into the air, arriving at the gate of the Mentang town. At this time, the black-scaled mad sand snake had rolled up a large piece of mad sand, like a sandstorm, covering half of the western wall of the Mentang town. Its huge snake body had already knocked down the city gate. Half of the snake body was inside the city, and half of the snake body was outside the city. The guards of the Mentang town saw the black-scaled mad sand snake showing its power, and no one dared to step forward. However, Lu Bowen only took a glance at the black-scaled mad sand snake, and then his eyes fell on Chen Ronghuo and Zhen Qinzan, with a solemn look in his eyes. There was white mist covering the front of Chen Ronghuo and Zhen Qinzan. He couldn't see the appearance of the two, and he couldn't detect their cultivation level with the power of the soul. But it doesn't take much to know that when the third-level cultivators were fighting, Chen Ronghuo and Zhen Qinzan dared to appear nearby, and their strength would definitely not be lower than the third level. Is there the man just now among these two people? Lu Bowen's face was gloomy. If Chen Ronghuo and Zhen Qinzan didn't have the person who just attacked him, then with the black-scaled crazy sand snake, there would be 4 third-level practitioners who came to surround and kill him this time. 4 third-level practitioners, what a big deal. He thought of Dai Zhenzi, the master of Tongluo Town, and Nai Quangdao, the master of Quangdao Town, who died at the hands of the descendants of Moli before, and his eyebrows jumped slightly. Strike first to gain the upper hand. Suddenly, his face became fierce. He grabbed a scepter inlaid with khaki gems with his palm. He raised the scepter upwards, and in the rolling khaki light, a large piece of land in front of him suddenly turned from real to virtual and fell in front of him. Then those khaki lights turned from virtual to real, and condensed into a large khaki seal, which fiercely suppressed the black-scaled crazy sand snake that collapsed the city wall. In the distance, Chen Ronghuo saw Lu Bowen take action and immediately identified him. Lu Bowen, Level 3 Early Earth Warlock. Qualification, 3. Ability 1, Earth Control LV1, Beginner. Ability 2, Earth Giant Transformation. Status, Burning the Power of Faith, Strength Level, Reaction Speed, Ability Level, all under the blessing of the mysterious power transformed by the burning of the power of faith, comparable to the late stage of the third-level cultivator. Earth Spirit Scepter, Level 3 Top Grade Secret Treasure. Can improve the ability level of Earth Attribute Warlocks by 1 small level. Attached ability Gravity Control. After identifying Lu Bowen's attributes, especially the attributes of the scepter in his hand, Chen Ronghuo was a little surprised. This was the first time he saw a level 3 top-grade secret treasure. There was a lack of equipment refiners on Beiwu Island, and level 3 secret treasures were extremely rare, let alone level 3 top-grade. Neither Dai Zhenzi, who was killed by him, nor Nai Quangdao had a level 3 secret treasure. Wen Jingluo, who was subdued by him, had no level 3 secret treasure either. The black-scaled crazy sand snake raised its head and roared. Amid the roar, endless wild sand gathered together and resisted the khaki seal that Lu Bowen was suppressing. Boom! However, Lu Bowen at this time was as powerful as an ordinary third-level late-stage cultivator. Coupled with the blessing of the Earth Spirit Scepter, the wild sand summoned by the black-scaled wild sand snake was broken by the seal in an instant. The khaki seal, which carried a huge force, instantly reached the top of the black-scaled wild sand snake amid the roar. Buzz! Suddenly, Zhen Qinzan, who was behind the black-scaled wild sand snake, stretched his hand forward, and 4 large tripods gushed out 4-color mysterious light, holding up a 4-spirit atlas, blocking the black-scaled wild sand snake. Boom! A loud noise sounded. Zhen Qinzan's 4 spirits atlas was smashed by the khaki seal and shattered quickly. Fortunately, this time, when the 4 spirits atlas shattered, the black-scaled crazy sand snake finally reacted. It quickly moved its snake body and swam out of the range covered by the seal. Buzz! Suddenly, just when the black-scaled crazy sand snake had just escaped from the range covered by the khaki seal, Lu Bowen waved his hand, and a mysterious force suddenly acted on the black-scaled crazy sand snake. The black-scaled crazy sand snake felt as if its weight had increased by dozens of times, and its movements became slow. Boom! At the same time, the ground under the black-scaled crazy sand snake was suddenly broken. A huge khaki-colored monster emerged from it. Half of the body of this monster came out from the ground, and the other half was underground. Looking at its size, it seemed to be no smaller than the black-scaled crazy sand snake. As soon as it came out, it opened its big mouth full of fangs and bit the black-scaled crazy sand snake. Not good. Zhenkinzan and Huanglin, who was hiding in the dark, were all shocked. They didn't expect that Lu Bowen had this trick. Could it be this guy who is the second third-level strongman in Mentang Town? Even Chen Ronghuo, who had figured out that there was a second third-level strongman in Mentang Town early on, was a little surprised. At first, he thought that the second third-level strongman in Mentang Town was a human. But he didn't expect that it was a demon. Earth Dragon Earthworm, early third level, Dragon Demon. Talent potential, peak of third level. Talent ability, Bury Earth. Ability, Earth Control LV1, Beginner. Dragon Demon? After identifying the attributes of this Earth Dragon Earthworm, Chen Ronghuo suddenly showed a hint of surprise and a hint of inexplicable color. Thanks to the book friend for the 100 reward. Landing 300 years in advance. Author, Chaoji Dupang. Chapter 207. The huge body of the earthworm emerged from the ground, with sharp fangs. The black-scaled mad sand snake was under the earthworm, and its body was cold. At this time, it was suppressed by Lu Bowen's gravity spell and moved slowly. It could only watch the big mouth of the earthworm getting closer and closer to itself. In the distance, Lu Bowen just glanced at the black-scaled mad sand snake and ignored it. The battle between cultivators is rarely evenly matched. Even if the strength of two cultivators is really similar, they will decide the winner in a short time due to various reasons. Generally, it is very rare to fight for a few minutes. In his opinion, the black-scaled mad sand snake is definitely dead this time. And with the distance between the black-scaled mad sand snake and Chen Ronghuo and Zhenkinzan, it is definitely too late for the two to rescue it. Your cat food is here. Just when Lu Bowen looked at Chen Ronghuo smiled and suddenly threw the fat cat in his arms out. This time, the fat cat also came with him. The fat cat was in the air, and its body quickly grew larger. At the same time, seeing that the Earth Dragon Earthworm was about to bite the black-scaled crazy sand snake, Chen Ronghuo moved his mind, and the soul power quickly poured into the ancient book. This time, he directly consumed 1/3 of his soul power, activated the ancient book sealing ability, and sealed the power of the Earth Dragon Earthworm. In an instant, the Earth Dragon Earthworm froze in place. Meow. The fat cat landed. It made the most ferocious cry in its eyes, opened its mouth wide, and swallowed the Earth Dragon Earthworm. All the dragon and tiger demons were restrained by it. After the fat cat opened its mouth, a deep vortex suddenly formed inside it. In the rotation, a terrifying suction force was formed. Whoosh! The huge body of the Earth Dragon Earthworm was pulled out of the ground involuntarily. At the same time, its big head with a diameter of more than 2 meters, under the terrifying suction formed by the fat cat, actually went into the fat cat's big mouth with a puff. In fact, the fat cat's big mouth is not as big as 2 meters. But when the earthworm approached the fat cat's big mouth, its head seemed to become smaller all of a sudden. Tulu. Then the fat cat seemed to eat noodles, and with a tulu, the earthworm, which was 20 or 30 meters long, went into its stomach. And its stomach didn't feel bloated at all. After swallowing the earthworm into its stomach, the fat cat immediately felt that its body was slightly warm, as if it was getting stronger. At the same time, after the earthworm entered its stomach, the strange power transformed into it also began to quickly nourish its soul. Meow. Then it called out and squinted its eyes. It flashed quietly and flew into Chen Ronghuo's arms. Fighting is the most annoying thing for cats. It only needs to eat. In the distance, when this scene happened, Lu Bowen was shocked. Originally, he just glanced at the fat cat out of the corner of his eye. But after the fat cat swallowed the earthworm, he seemed to be afraid of attracting the fat cat's attention. He slowly turned his head and set his eyes on the fat cat. What kind of terrifying monster is this? Cat? What kind of cat is so fierce? At this moment, Lu Bowen almost turned around and ran away. He was really scared by the fat cat. But he didn't know that if Chen Ronghuo hadn't used the sealing technique of the ancient book, even if the fat cat could restrain the dragon and tiger demons, it would not be so easy to swallow the earthworm into its stomach. After all, the difference in their cultivation was too great. Brother Bowen, wait a moment, we will be there soon. At this time, a loud roar suddenly came from the east. Hearing the movement, Lu Bowen was startled, and immediately a trace of determination appeared in his eyes. When this voice sounded, he had already heard that the person coming was Chang Soon Ping. Chang Soon Zhengzin has 3 sons and 1 daughter. They are Chang Soon Ping, Chang Soonan, Chang Soon Yi, and Chang Soon Sheng. Among them, Chang Soon Ping is the first son of Chang Soon Zhengzin, who is very powerful and a true third-stage late-stage cultivator. At the same time, after he had a little idea in his mind, he suddenly thought that if the cat was really that powerful, why would Chen Ronghuo and others want to kill him so much trouble? The idea flashed in his mind, and he had some understanding, knowing that the move that fat cat just made must have some limitations. It was just that he was in the game, so he was almost deceived by it. Do it. At this time, Chen Ronghuo's face sank after hearing Chang Soon Ping's shouting, and he gave the order to do it. Huh. As soon as Chen Ronghuo finished speaking, a figure suddenly walked out from behind Lu Bowen and grabbed Lu Bowen's back with one claw. This figure was Huang Lin. When Huang Lin took action, Zhen Qinzan also recondensed the 4 spirits atlas and suppressed Lu Bowen. At the same time, the black-scaled mad sand snake, which had just escaped from danger, also raised its head, condensed endless mad sand, and turned it into a mad sand spear, piercing through the void, and with a bang, it arrived in front of Lu Bowen. When the 3 of them took action, Chen Ronghuo also summoned the natural disaster devil wings, soared into the air, raised his hand and swung out a black and red flame tornado, killing Lu Bowen. 4 third-level strongmen attacked at the same time. Such treatment must be rare in the entire White Mist Island. Boom! Lu Bowen's face was gloomy, and he pointed the scepter in his hand. Suddenly, with him as the center, a strong yellow light rushed into the sky and gathered around his body. Indistinctly, a huge cocky giant phantom was formed with Lu Bowen as the center. As Lu Bowen raised his foot, the giant also raised his big foot and was about to fall to the ground. The earth giant transformed. Chen Ronghuo's mind moved slightly, thinking of the attributes of Lu Bowen that he had just identified, and once again injected 1/3 of his soul power into the ancient book, sealing the cocky light around Lu Bowen. He did not seal Lu Bowen himself. Lu Bowen was in a special state at this time, similar to a late-stage third-order cultivator. He consumed 1/3 of his soul power to seal Lu Bowen himself, which might not have much effect. When a large amount of cocky light gathered around Lu Bowen's body and he was about to transform into a cocky giant 20 to 30 meters high, with a flash of white light that was invisible to the naked eye, suddenly, the cocky light around Lu Bowen's body disappeared by 80 to 90%. When a large amount of cocky light disappeared, the remaining light around Lu Bowen's body instantly solidified and merged with Lu Bowen. Immediately, Lu Bowen, who could originally transform into a giant of more than 20 meters tall, only changed into a small giant about 2.5 meters tall. Boom! At this time, Lu Bowen landed on the ground with 1 foot. But as his foot landed on the ground, a thin layer of yellow light as thin as paper rushed up from the ground with him as the center, blocking the attack of Chen Ronghuo and the other 4. How could it be? Seeing that layer of yellow light. Seeing that layer of yellow light as thin as paper. And then seeing the size after his transformation. Lu Bowen's face instantly became extremely ugly. But at this time, the attacks of Chen Ronghuo and the other 4 had already reached him. The thin layer of yellow light as thin as paper that Lu Bowen created did not work at all, and was smashed to pieces, and he showed an unwilling look on his face. Then the next moment, his figure was submerged by the 4 attacks. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Landing 300 years in advance. Author, Chao Ji Dupang. Chapter 208. After the calamity fire tornado licked away the yellowish-brown light around Lu Bowen's body, Chen Ronghuo immediately learned his lesson and waved his hand to take back the calamity fire tornado. He was worried that the calamity fire tornado was too powerful and would burn Lu Bowen to ashes. But even without the calamity fire tornado, it was too late for Lu Bowen to use other means after he made a mistake in transforming into a giant earth. Under the suppression of the 1003-4 Spirits Atlas, he was pierced through the body by Huang Lin's palm and the spear of crazy sand condensed by the black scale crazy sand snake. Lu Bowen's eyes showed reluctance. However, the 2 attacks that penetrated his body, especially the coldness of Huang Lin's big hand inserted into his body, froze his remaining thoughts in a short time. Boom! As Huang Lin's big hand was withdrawn, the snake scales on his hand fell off, and Lu Bowen fell to the ground with a plop. Chen Ronghuo flapped his calamity wings and stepped forward, took a look at Lu Bowen, and then put his body into his storage ring. He immediately raised his head and looked at Mentang Town. Because the walls of Mentang Town were crushed by the black-scaled crazy sand snake, Chen Ronghuo didn't need to fly too high to see the general situation of Mentang Town at this time. At this time, Lu Bowen, the lord of the town, was dead. The black-scaled crazy sand snake, which was 20 to 30 meters long, raised its huge and ferocious snake head in the broken walls and ruins, like a world-destroying beast, staring coldly at this important town filled with fear. As a result, almost no one in the crazy sand town dared to look here. Chen Ronghuo vibrated the calamity wings, and his figure flashed in the void, and he arrived next to the statue of Lu Bowen standing in front of the Lord's mansion in Mentang Town. He stretched out his left hand, touched the statue of Lu Bowen. Endless black and red natural disaster flames emanated from his hands, blazing like the sun, burning the surface, and eroding the inside like the shadow. When combined, the expression of Lu Bowen's Lord statue seemed to be slightly distorted. Boom boom boom. At the same time, Zhen Qinzan and Huang Lin, who came with him, also attacked the Lord statue. Boom. Just a dozen seconds later, accompanied by a loud bang, Lu Bowen's Lord statue became the 5th Lord statue to fall in front of Chen Ronghuo. Then, when the purple meaning flashed in his left hand, Chen Ronghuo also used his noble mark to absorb the power of faith remaining in the statue. Divinity. Chen Ronghuo's eyes flashed. The purple meaning he touched out of the Lord statue was the attribute of divinity. Adding this attribute to the Lord statue can make the Lord light emitted by the Lord statue have a wider range. During this period, he also tried to add this attribute to other things. But the results were not satisfactory to him. For example, he added the divine attribute to the fat cat. The result was that the fat cat had more evil-repelling attributes, and most lives and other things could only add one divine attribute, no more. But this time, after Chen Ronghuo took out the divine attribute from Lu Bowen's Lord statue, he had an idea. He suddenly thought of whether he could integrate this divine attribute into his noble mark. After all, the noble mark, like the Lord statue, is related to the gods. Integrating the divine attribute into the noble mark may bring unexpected gains. He had never thought about this before. At the same time, he did not use the ancient book to calculate. Because this matter is related to the gods. Even if he consumed all the energy accumulated in the ancient book, he could not calculate the result. Let's go back first. With a move in his mind, Chen Ronghuo looked to the east. After such a long time, The person who just called out is probably about to arrive. He just used the sealing power of the ancient book twice, and his soul power was seriously consumed. It is not suitable for him to use the ancient book to calculate anything, and it is really not suitable for fighting with others. Let's go back to the town. He raised his head and signaled to Qian-san and Huang Lin. Then the three of them took off into the air and rushed straight to Greenwater Bay Town. As for the black-scaled crazy sand snake, it had already rushed to the direction of Greenwater Bay Town according to Huang Lin's instructions. This big guy did not fly. Although it can also fly, because of its large size, its flying speed is not as fast as the speed of swimming on the ground. After all, not all monsters can change size. The sea monsters in the Devilfish Lake and the black-scaled crazy sand snake are all monsters that cannot change size. Boom! Not long after Chen Ronghuo and others left, the chaotic Mentang town welcomed three flying figures. After the three figures arrived, they swept their eyes around the Mentang town, especially after seeing the Lord statue that Lu Bowen had broken into pieces. Their faces suddenly became gloomy. Whoosh! After the three people appeared, a warrior in a grey robe rushed out of the crowd in the Mentang town and came to the three people. Seeing this person, the leader of the three figures flying in the air said, "Sang Qing, who did all this?" "But Longtan town." The person who spoke was wearing a white robe and had a calm face. Looking closely, his appearance was somewhat similar to Chang Soon Zhengzin, and it was Chang Soon Zhengzin's eldest son Chang Soon Ping. The long-robed warrior Sang Qing said, "Master Ping, there are three people who killed Lu Bowen, and there was also the third-order snake that had been causing trouble in the important town of Mentang some time ago. It's just that the three people who came here this time all concealed their appearance and used methods I have never seen before. They should not be from Longtan town and other major towns. Moreover, both the third-level Earth Dragon Earthworm under Lu Bowen and Lu Bowen himself were killed instantly by them. Even Lu Bowen had probably burned the power of faith at that time." Instant kill? Lu Bowen has burned the power of faith? Upon hearing Sang Qing's words, the three of them all jumped in their hearts. After being able to kill Lu Bowen instantly with the power of burning faith, he was comparable to a late third-level cultivator. It can be seen how powerful the three people who killed Lu Bowen were. Right. At this time, Sang Qing seemed to have remembered something, and spoke again. "Actually, it was not those three people, nor the third-order snake, who killed the Earth Dragon Earthworm. It was a fat cat held by the leader of the three. It was a fat orange cat that could grow into the size of a tiger. I don't know where it came from, but it swallowed the Earth Dragon Earthworm into its belly with just one bite." A fat orange cat swallowed the Earth Dragon Earthworm into his stomach in one gulp? Chang Soon Ping and the three people beside him were startled. What kind of cat can swallow a third-level Earth Dragon Earthworm in one gulp? At this moment, the hearts of the three of them became more solemn. Suddenly, beside Chang Soon Ping, a figure carrying a heavy sword asked him, "Mr. Ping, do you think these three people, as well as the cat and the big snake, are the descendants of the magic ritual?" "The legacy of the magic ritual," Chang Soon Ping frowned. "When my father was still alive, for some reasons, he allowed the major forces on the island to develop, as long as they paid tribute to White Mist City every year. But his control over Beiwu Island is definitely not weak. In other words, even if there are some magic ritual survivors on the island, their strength will not be too strong. Therefore, I always feel that the so-called Magic Gift Clan is simply a cover created by some people to draw the attention of our eldest grandson family to the Magic Gift Clan." The figure carrying a heavy sword was none other than Li Tianjian, the leader of the original Sword Town. He was surprised and said, "A cover? Mr. Ping, what do you mean?" Chang Soon Ping turned his head and set his sights in the direction of Longtan Town and several other important towns. Seeing Chang Soon Ping's appearance, Li Tianjian was shocked. "Sir, didn't Sang Qing just say that those people should not be from the important town of Longtan?" Chang Soon said calmly, Longtan Town is too hidden. Before this, who knew that they had formed an alliance with Dark Horse Town and Xuanhuan Town? Landing 300 years in advance. Author, Chao Ji Peng. Chapter 209. Swoosh. Several figures flew from the south and stopped far away. Master Ping. The leader, with eyebrows and eyes, wearing a purple robe, was Long Fi Feng, the younger brother of Long Fi Hung from Longtan Town. He looked at Chang Soon Ping and said, I don't know what happened here. How is Lu Bowen? Chang Soon Ping took a deep look at Long Fi Feng. What happened here, Long Fi Feng, don't you know? What kind of look is this? Long Fi Feng didn't understand, and was looked at strangely by Chang Soon Ping. He frowned and said, I just came here, what can I know? This time, when the Mentang Town incident happened, only he and several people from the Black Horse Town and the Xuanhuan Town rushed over. As for the several town masters, they naturally couldn't go out easily. Lu Bowen is dead, Chang Soon Ping said calmly. He was killed by 3 third-level practitioners and the big snake that had been making trouble in Mentang Town. 3 third-level practitioners, Long Fi Feng showed a trace of surprise. But in a flash, this trace of surprise disappeared. Then he looked at Chang Soon Ping, and according to what Long Fi Hung had told him before coming, Lu Bowen was able to exert strength comparable to that of a late-stage third-order cultivator in his own territory. With such strength, he died so quickly at the hands of those 3 people. I just don't know who the 3 people who killed him were. Does Mr. Ping know? I don't know them. Chang Soon Ping said calmly. Don't you even know Mr. Ping? Long Fi Feng seemed to frown, and then continued, during this period, there have been frequent activities of the devil cult on the island. Mr. Ping, do you think those 3 people could be from the devil cult? Hearing Long Fi Feng mention the devil cult, Chang Soon Ping's heart suddenly moved. He didn't believe in the so-called devil cult. At this time, he heard Long Fi Feng mention the devil cult on his own initiative, and he immediately became suspicious again. Maybe he shook his head slowly, pretending to be not very interested. Why would he react like this? Seeing Chang Soon Ping's look, Long Fi Feng was puzzled. According to Long Fi Hung, the descendants of Mo Li and the Chang Soon family are sworn enemies. Once the Chang Soon family learns about the descendants of Mo Li, it is impossible for them to react like this. Thinking of this, he could only attribute this to the fact that Chang Soon Ping was too cunning, so he spoke again. By the way, Master Ping, I came here this time, in addition to wanting to see what happened in Mentang, I also want to tell you that we have discovered a base of the descendants of Mo Li in Longtan. But we don't know the roots of the descendants of Mo Li, and we dare not go there alone. So I want to invite Master Ping to go together and test the Mo Li family, which was at its peak 1,000 years ago, to see how much strength they still have. I wonder if Master Ping is willing to go with us. Chang Soon Ping became more suspicious after hearing this. I said I don't know the 3 people who killed Lu Bowen, don't you doubt it? Don't you doubt that I directed and acted the scene for some benefit? Or do you already know who killed Lu Bowen? With suspicion, Chang Soon Ping said, where is the base of the descendants of Mo Li? Xuanhuan Town. Long Fi Feng said solemnly. Xuanhuan Town? The town southwest of Longtan Town? Chang Soon Ping lost interest immediately after hearing this. Originally, when there were Tongluo Town and Taixu Town, Xuanhuan Town was between these 2 towns. But after these 2 towns, as well as Xuanhe Town and Mentang Town were destroyed, Xuanhuan Town was directly connected to Longtan Town. When he suspected that the descendants of Mo Li were actually a cover created by Longtan Town, if he still followed the suggestion of Longtan Town and went to Xuanhuan Town to test it, he would be a fool. Thinking of this, he stopped arguing with Long Fi Feng and said directly, Lu Bowen was good friends with my 4th brother when he was alive. After his death, Mentang Town will be managed by us for him. Is there any problem with your major towns? You want Mentang Town? Long Fifeng was startled. Then he smiled and said, "Of course there is no problem with this matter. The Changsun family is not weak. When Lushwiven town is secretly spying, Longtan town and other major towns do not want to have too much conflict with the Changsun family. Since there is no problem, I won't send you off," Changsun Ping said calmly. "Not sending you off?" Long Fifeng frowned. "Mr. Ping, do you know about Lushwiven town?" "Let's talk about Lushwiven town later," Changsun Ping said calmly. "After you go back, I hope you can bring a message to your eldest brother. Beiwu Island has been in war for more than a year and a half, and the people are living in dire straits. In the next period of time, I hope everyone can be quiet and concentrate on development. Our great enemy is Hiwu Island. If it weren't for this period of time, Hiwu Island was not peaceful either. I'm afraid it would have attacked our Beiwu Island long ago." Changsun Ping didn't want to have too much conflict with Longtan town now. Long Fiheng, the lord of Longtan town, is a peak cultivator of the 3rd level. With Long Fiheng's strength, only his 3rd sister with outstanding talent can contend with him. But if a big battle breaks out, it will be fine if they win, but if they lose, they will definitely be doomed. So he thought of delaying for a while, so that he could gather the power of the 5 northern towns of Beiwu Island and condense the power of faith for his 3rd sister to practice, in order to let his 3rd sister break through to the 4th level. Although the 3rd level peak cultivator is powerful, he does not have the momentum to crush everything. Only by reaching the 4th level can we regain control of Beiwu Island with the force of thunder in the hands of their Changsun family. Talk about it later? Long Fifeng was startled, showing an incredible look, and he couldn't figure out what Changsun Ping was thinking. "Okay," Long Fifeng took a deep breath, "in that case, I'll take my leave first. I will tell my eldest brother about what Mr. Ping mentioned after I go back." After he finished speaking, he immediately took the people around him and quickly left Mentang town. The few people he brought with him were as strong as him, all in the middle stage of the 3rd level. It was precisely because of this that they dared to come and face Changsun Ping directly. Seeing Long Fifeng leave, Changsun Ping narrowed his eyes slightly, and after a moment, he began to arrange his men to deal with the affairs of Mentang town. Mentang town not only includes the city of Mentang town, but also many surrounding villages, and the large area of territory that Mentang town had seized from Taixu town before. At the same time, when Chang Sunping rejected the proposal of Longtan town, Chen Ronghuo, Zhen Qinzan, and Huang Lin finally returned to Lushwiven town. But what was different from before was, this time, the 3 did not hide their tracks when they returned to Lushwiven town. Instead, they flew openly. Except for a few 2nd level warlocks, only 3rd level practitioners can fly. Therefore, when Chen Ronghuo and the other 2 returned, they caused a great sensation in Lushwiven town. However, compared with Chen Ronghuo and the other 2, the most shocking thing was the black-scaled crazy sand snake that was 20 to 30 meters long and flew back with them. It flew, the Lord flew. How is this possible? Is our Lord not actually a 2nd level cultivator, but a 3rd level cultivator? What about Mr. Huang? Is Mr. Huang also a 3rd level cultivator? And the white-haired man next to the Lord, is he also a 3rd level cultivator? Look, why does that big snake look so much like the big snake that the storyteller mentioned before, which was a disaster for the important town of Mentang? Hiss. Everyone in Lushwiven town took a breath of cold air. The update is always slow. Hey, I have been sending red envelopes every day these days. I will work hard to stabilize the update to 5 times as soon as possible and pay back what I owe. Thanks to the book friend Flying Dragon in Heaven for the 100 coin reward. Landing 300 years in advance. Author, Chao Ji Peng. Chapter 210. Level 3 Cultivator? If our Lord and Lord Huang Lin are all level 3 cultivators, will those important towns not dare to make plans against us? During this period, because of the continuous changes in Beiwu Island, the people of Lushwiven town were a little worried. They were worried that their increasingly happy lives would be implicated by the changes in Beiwu Island. For ordinary people, no one wants to be in danger of war around them at any time. At this time, the people of Lushwiven town saw Chen Ronghuo returning to the town with Zhenqianzan, Huanglin, and the black-scale crazy sand snake, and they all started to discuss it. I don't know if those important towns dare to make plans against us, but I know that our Lushwiven town is probably qualified to become an important town. Ordinary townspeople don't have much experience. Before this, in their minds, all the major towns were the same as Tongluo town and Yuanhe town. Most of them only had 1 or 2 level 3 cultivators. In this case, if Greenwater Bay town has 4 third-level practitioners, who would dare to provoke it? As for the huge gap between third-level practitioners, ordinary practitioners are not very clear. In addition, Chen Ronghuo and others, who were originally only second-level practitioners in their minds, suddenly showed third-level cultivation. In this case, even if some people say that Chen Ronghuo is a third-level peak practitioner, I am afraid that some people will believe it. Today, Greenwater Bay town is upgraded to an important town, performing fish and dragon dances, and falling colorful rains, and the whole town will appreciate it. During the flight, Chen Ronghuo vibrated the void with the power of his soul, and the sound spread throughout the entire Greenwater Bay town. At this time, it was not daytime, but 8 or 9 o'clock in the evening, when the silver moon was hanging high. However, because of the continuous changes in Beiwu Island today, and the huge movement from the Mentang important town before, few people in Greenwater Bay town slept at this time. So when Chen Ronghuo's words just came out, everyone in the town was shocked. Upgrading to an important town means that Chen Ronghuo will be promoted to Viscount. Important town, our Lushwiven town will also become an important town. It's only been more than a year, and our territory will become an important town. There are so many people fighting outside, almost all ordinary towns have been destroyed in this chaos, and even most of the 13 important towns have been destroyed, but our Lushwiven town is going to be promoted to an important town at this time. At this moment, as Chen Ronghuo finished speaking, the whole Lushwiven town was in an uproar. Almost all the townspeople in Lushwiven town were frightened by Chen Ronghuo's words. Chen Ronghuo hit it too well. Or in other words, his strength improved too fast. Before this, although Lushwiven town was extremely prosperous under his leadership, and everyone lived a good life, few people knew that Chen Ronghuo had such strength. Even Xiaoruo was stunned after hearing Chen Ronghuo's words. He is the deputy mayor of Greenwater Bay town. He usually assists Chen Ronghuo in managing Greenwater Bay town, but even he did not expect that Chen Ronghuo would suddenly announce this order. He also never knew that Chen Ronghuo and Huanglin and others were actually third-level practitioners. But his reaction was faster than everyone else. After Chen Ronghuo finished speaking, he was just slightly stunned, and suddenly shouted loudly, "Congratulations to Greenwater Bay town, congratulations to the Lord. Congratulations to Greenwater Bay town, congratulations to the Lord." As Xiaoruo spoke, everyone in Greenwater Bay town also reacted, and all shouted in the night. "Congratulations to Greenwater Bay town, congratulations to the Lord." At this time, suddenly there was a strange shouting from outside Greenwater Bay town. "Look, carp, red carp. So many red carp, so many big red carp." The guards standing on the city wall of Greenwater Bay town looked from afar and immediately saw that the one who just shouted that strange shout was actually a big red carp rushing out of the green water outside Greenwater Bay town. The red scales on the carp were shining and extremely dazzling. Especially when it emerged from the water and soared into the sky, it was like a huge blooming firework. In this situation, the big red carp, with hundreds of large and small red carps, sometimes flew into the air and sometimes dived into the water, just like dancing, which was pleasing to the eye. The flying red carp can also speak. Could that big red carp also be a third-level demon? Fish dragon dance, the Lord just said fish dragon dance, is this the fish dragon dance? Let the third level demon dance. But, what is the 7-color rain? Swish. At this moment, under the night sky, drops of 7-color rain suddenly fell sparsely above Greenwater Baytown. The townspeople who were drenched by the 7-color rain immediately felt a shock. But they looked up and couldn't see anything. I don't know where this 7-color spiritual rain came from. At this moment, Chen Ronghuo vibrated the natural disaster demon wings and flew above his lord's mansion. He looked around. After breaking through the third level, he no longer needed to be as cautious as before and continue to survive. At least on Beiwu Island. With his current strength, he can't compare with several major towns headed by Longtan Town and the Changsun family. But he has ancient books. If it really doesn't work, he will use up all the energy accumulated in the ancient book, kill a few third-stage late-stage practitioners, or even third-stage peak practitioners. He doesn't believe that anyone dares to provoke him. It is precisely because he has a bottom line in his heart. And in the current situation, even if he continues to hide, he can't hide for long. That's why he chose to step out from behind the scenes and into the front. In fact, he also knew that his steps were a bit fast. But one step faster, every step faster. There are also benefits to taking fast steps. Thinking so in his heart, he glanced at his lord's statue below. This time, the power of faith he obtained in Mentang Town was somewhat beyond his expectations. Even if Lu Bowen burned some power of faith before this, the power of faith he finally obtained from Mentang Town was more than the power of faith he obtained from Tongluo, Kuangdao, and Yuanhe Town. It is a bit difficult to support him to quickly cultivate to the third stage middle stage with so much power of faith. But if he sacrifices it to the gods, it will definitely be enough for him to be promoted to Viscount. The Baron can only keep 20% of the power of faith he has obtained, while the Viscount can keep 30%. And, while standing in the air, Chen Ronghuo summoned his noble mark from his forehead. This is a mysterious purple gold mark. The small mark is filled with extremely complex and fine lines. It's time to try to integrate the divine attributes into it. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Landing 300 years in advance. Author, Chaoji Dupang. Chapter 211. The former important town of Aoki. In the Lord's mansion in Qingmu Town, Long Fiheng, Ma Tianxiao, and Tan Xiong were all waiting here. Waiting for Long Fifeng and others to return. Qingmu Town is located right in the middle of Longtan Town, Black Horse Town, and Xuanhuan Town. The three of them gathered in the important town of Qingmu. No matter what happened to anyone's territory, they could rush back quickly. And just when Chen Ronghuo announced in Lushwiven Town that Lushwiven Town would be promoted to an important town, Long Fifeng finally hurried back. Brother, I don't know what Chang Sunping is thinking. I mentioned Greenwater Bay Town to him, and that Greenwater Bay Town might be a stronghold of the demonic ritual clan, but he didn't react at all. As soon as he came back, Long Fifeng told Long Fiheng everything about his trip. No reaction at all? After hearing Long Fifeng's words, Long Fiheng frowned immediately. Brother Long, what do you think this is going on? Ma Tianxiao on the side frowned and said, the Demon Li family is the world's enemy of the Changsun family. Chang Sunping shouldn't be so calm after learning about the Demon Li family. Long Fiheng knocked on the armrest of the chair, narrowed his eyes, and fell into deep thought. Seeing this, the others waited quietly while thinking about the reason for this matter in their hearts. A few minutes later, Long Fiheng suddenly opened his eyes and said coldly, do you think it is possible that the deceased family of the magic gift was a cover deliberately created by the Changsun family? Is the legacy of the magic ritual a cover deliberately created by the Changsun family? Everyone was startled when they heard this. This shouldn't be possible, Right. After a moment, Tan Xiang said, if the demonic relic family is a cover created by the Changsun family, then this time, they can definitely agree to us. Then go with us to test Greenwater Bay Town and take the opportunity to capture us. Long Fei-hung stood up from his seat and said in a deep voice, what you said is based on their strong enough strength. But what if their strength is not enough to take down the three of us? Greenwater Bay Town is right next to us. Do you think it's possible that they are waiting for us to go to Greenwater Bay Town alone when we can't help but attack our town with thunder and break the statue of our Lord? Hiss. When Tan Xiang and Ma Tianxiao heard this, they both took a slight breath of air. After a while, Ma Tianxiao said, Brother Long, what if we send our men to attack Lushwiven Town? Not good. Long Fei-hung shook his head. Lushwiven Town can kill Lu Bowen head-on in the leading town. Although he may not be our opponent, his strength must not be underestimated. Especially since they are still in their own territory. If we send our men there, we can only fall into the trap ourselves. So next, all we have to do is wait. Long Fei-hung's eyes flashed sharply and he said, what we are least afraid of is prolonging the time. Brother Long, is it? Tan Xiang and Ma Tianxiao's eyes lit up slightly when they heard this. Long Fei-hung nodded slightly. The news about that man came not long ago, and most of his layout on Black Mist Island has been completed. Greenwater Bay Town. Chen Ronghuo summoned his noble mark. Baron's Mark, a noble reward scroll made by the Northern Gods Alliance, the sleepless god Mo Kaiang, and awarded as a reward. The power of faith can be collected and stored for a short period of time. The owner of the mark will automatically sacrifice 80% of the power of faith gained through his own territory to the Alliance of Gods through this mark. Half of the 80% of the power of faith belongs to Mo Kaiang. Half is owned collectively by the Northern Gods. In the end, half of the power of faith will be divided among the Northern Gods according to their respective strengths. Note 1, Mo Kaiang, the maker of the noble mark, is in a deep sleep. When he wakes up, he can sense the position of the owner of the noble mark through the noble mark. Note 2, due to the agreement of the gods, most of the gods are in deep sleep, and within 288 years, no god can interfere with what happens in the world of the gods. Staring at his barren mark hanging in front of him, Chen Ronghuo's eyes flashed. He had actually discovered the information hidden in the Baron's mark some time ago. But at that time, he didn't think of incorporating divine attributes into it. This idea came to him just after he went to the important town of Mentang. Taking a deep breath, Chen Ronghuo looked at his noble mark, slowly stretched out his left hand and touched it. Buzz. Suddenly, as Chen Ronghuo touched the noble mark with his left hand and integrated a divine attribute into it, the noble mark in front of him immediately bloomed with a strong purple meaning. When the purple spirit was surging, Chen Ronghuo could clearly see that the internal lines had changed slightly. Baron Mark of Noble Mark. Statue of Lord Viscount has add one divine attribute. You can retain 2.1% of the collected power of faith. Note, when the noble mark can retain all the power of faith collected by the Lord and no longer sacrifice it to the gods, the noble mark will transform into a divine seal. The space of the divine seal is huge and can store a large amount of the power of faith permanently. At the same time, you can directly burn the power of faith through the divine seal, enhance your own strength, and no longer be controlled by the Lord's statue or the gods. At the same time, after the noble mark transforms into a divine mark, it will no longer have any contact with the maker of the mark, the sleepless god Mo Kaiang. When the Baron's mark changed, Chen Ronghuo used the ancient book to identify its attributes again. When he saw the new changes in his noble mark, Chen Ronghuo's eyes suddenly lit up. Through identification, Chen Ronghuo knew that most of the Viscount's Lord statues had more than 10 divine attributes, but when he took the divine attributes from them, he could only take out 4 or 5. The other divine attributes would all dissipate because the Lord's statue was broken. So he added up the divine attributes he obtained from the Kwangdao town, Yuanhe town, and Mentang town, a total of 14 divine attributes. Taking a deep breath, Chen Ronghuo thought about it and touched his noble mark with his left hand again, and then integrated 9 more divine attributes into it. When these 9 divine attributes were integrated into his noble mark suddenly burst out with a more violent purple gold color. Noble mark of Viscount Seal, can leave 30% of the power of faith. In a moment, his noble mark was transformed. From the Baron mark, it was transformed into the Viscount mark. In the process, he not only did not consume any faith power, but also took away more than a dozen divine attributes from the Lord's statues made by other gods. Buzz. At the same time, when Chen Ronghuo's noble mark was transformed into the Viscount mark, the Lord's statue below him also shook, and became more dazzling in the flashing light. Viscount Lord statue, under the reaction mechanism left by the gods before they fell asleep, most Lord statues will be promoted as the Lord's title is promoted. When Chen Ronghuo saw this scene, his face was slightly strange. The sleeping god Mo Kaiang, at the same time, he thought of the description of the maker of his noble mark in the ancient book, and the strange look on his face became more obvious. Huh! He landed and reached out to integrate the remaining divine attributes into his Lord's statue. Today is the 3rd update, more than 2,000 words, it took me 2.5 hours to finish it MMP. Thanks to that year's regret for 1,500 coins, strange people for 1,000 coins, and the burning of the sense of time for 100 coins. Landing 300 years in advance. Author, Chaoji Dupang. Chapter 212. After being promoted to Viscount and upgrading Greenwater Bay Town to an important town, Chen Ronghuo immediately summoned all the important figures of Greenwater Bay Town to the Lord's mansion. Huang Taizheng, who was stationed in Shanghe Town, and Zhu Kaiyan, who was stationed in Hexi Town, also rushed over. After such a long time, the construction of Hexi Town has been completed. And under Zhu Kaiyan's management, Hexi Town has recruited more than 10,000 people from the original Angsha Town and Haihu Town. In terms of the number of townspeople, it is no less than Greenwater Bay Town and Shanghe Town. In total, the number of people in the 3 towns under Chen Ronghuo's control has exceeded 30,000. At the same time, Shanghe Town and Hexi Town are only 4 or 5 miles away from each other. The 2 towns are only 4 or 5 miles away from Greenwater Bay Town. For a 3rd-level cultivator, 4 or 5 miles can be reached in less than 10 seconds. Take Chen Ronghuo as an example. If he spreads his wings of natural disaster and flies at full speed, he can fly from one end of the hundreds of miles long White Mist Island to the other in a few minutes. On Earth, he is almost a humanoid airplane. In this case, if someone attacks Shanghe Town and Hexi Town, he can quickly go to support. And just now, after Chen Ronghuo blessed his remaining divine attributes on his Lord's statue, the Lord light released by his Lord's statue can already cover 20 or 30 miles away. All 3 towns under his command were covered in it. This means that even if he is in Shanghe Town and Hexi Town, he can burn the power of faith and exert the strength comparable to that of a late-stage 3rd-level cultivator. Mr. Huang, Zhu Kaiyan thinking of this in his heart, Chen Ronghuo looked at Huang Taizheng and Zhu Kaiyan and said, after you rush back to your town, hand over all the work at hand. For the next period of time, let others take over the management of the 2 towns for you. Lord. The 2 heard the words, and their faces changed slightly. Chen Ronghuo shook his head and said calmly, you must be aware of the current situation on Beiwu Island. I estimate that it won't take long before the 3 major towns of Longtan, Hema, and Xuanhuan, as well as the Changsun family, will come to our town to test. Lushwiven Town is my territory. Whoever dares to come, I can make him never come back. But Shanghe Town and Hexi Town are 5 miles away from Lushwiven Town. Although it is not too far, they attacked the 2 towns. I want to support them, and it will take some time. The 2 towns are my hard work, but if they are damaged, I will not be too distressed, but you can't. Thank you, Lord. Huang Taizheng and Zhu Qian were moved when they heard the words, and they bowed deeply to Chen Ronghuo. In addition, everyone else should be prepared, especially Huang Lin. After settling the 2 people, Chen Ronghuo then explained to the others. It took more than 10 minutes before the meeting ended. Zhenkinzan finally, after sending everyone else out, Chen Ronghuo kept Zhenkinzan. This is something I found in Lu Bowen's storage ring before. See if you can use it. What he showed Zhenkinzan was a yellowish-brown bead that flashed with spiritual light. Earth Spirit Bead. Seeing this bead, Zhenkinzan's face immediately showed a hint of joy. The 4-ding sealing formation secret art he practiced is both a spell and a formation. This secret art, if combined with the 4 attribute spirit beads of earth, water, wind, and fire, can double its power. And the spirit bead that Chen Ronghuo took out is a kind of earth attribute spirit bead. Although the grade of this spirit bead is only about the 3rd grade upper grade, it is enough for him now. Thinking of this, Zhenkinzan didn't hesitate and said directly, the secret art that I practice needs this bead. In that case, then this thing belongs to you, you can use it. Chen Ronghuo threw the earth spirit bead to Zhenkinzan. Rewarding meritorious service is one of the prerequisites for the prosperity of the territory. During this period, Zhenkinzan played a great role in several operations. If Chen Ronghuo did not give out some rewards, it would be a bit unreasonable. Moreover, the increased strength of his subordinates could also help him gain more benefits. He knew very well that if he did not have a group of subordinates to help him, he would never be able to cultivate to the 3rd level in such a short time. Thank you, Lord. Zhenkinzan took the earth spirit pearl, bowed, and retreated. After Zhenkinzan left, Chen Ronghuo was in the hall, slowly closing his eyes, practicing the Dark Star meditation technique and the Undead Magic Sutra, while waiting for the attack of the Changsun family and the 3 major towns headed by the Longtan town. What surprised him was that after 4 or 5 days, the Changsun family and several major towns did not make any movement at all. It was as if they did not know his existence at all. What are these people doing? Chen Ronghuo was puzzled. But even if he had another brain, he would never have thought that the Changsun family and Longtan town had actually misunderstood him as a cover for the other party. For various reasons, they did not dare to touch him. Even Huang Lin did not find out the reason. Because only a few real high-level officials in the 3 major towns knew about this. Others knew nothing. Can't wait any longer. One day, Chen Ronghuo called Zhu Qian over after thinking about it. Zhu Qian, I'll give you a new task, Chen Ronghuo said, handing Zhu Qian a few pieces of paper he had worked on in the past few days. Next, you find some people and try your best to help me bring all the people written on these papers back to Lushwiven town. But when doing this, you must remember to never neglect the people written on these papers. Yes. Zhu Qian took the papers handed over by Chen Ronghuo with confusion. Then he found that there were some descriptions of each person on it. Almost all of these people were down and out, and almost no cultivation. In addition, the people Chen Ronghuo asked him to bring also included their families. He opened the pages one by one and saw that there were hundreds of people recorded on these papers, even if their families were not counted. With these people, the Warlock Hall, the Weapon Refining Hall, and the Alchemy Hall are almost all formed. After Zhu Qian left with the papers he had made in confusion, Chen Ronghuo muttered to himself. The people he wrote on the paper were all those he had calculated with ancient books in the past few days. They were not far from their Greenwater Bay town. They all had certain sorcerer qualifications, but they had not awakened. In the past, Chen Ronghuo could also use ancient books to calculate these people. But at that time, he had not yet broken through the 3rd level. Whether it was the amount of soul power or the recovery speed, it was far less than it is now. If he did so, it would seriously delay his cultivation. After Zhu Qian began to arrange people to act according to his instructions, Chen Ronghuo continued to wait for the attack of the Changsun family and the three major towns. But he did not expect that he would wait for more than a month. In more than a month, under the coordination of Zhu Qian, most of the hundreds of people he had written on the paper before were recruited to Greenwater Baytown. These people were originally downtrodden. After being found in Greenwater Baytown, they were treated with courtesy by Chen Ronghuo. In addition, he arranged people to brainwash these people. In just over a month, these people's loyalty to him reached more than 60 points. Even some of them have a loyalty level of over 80 points. Thanks to for the 100 coin reward.